Welcome to Boulder City City Council this afternoon. We appreciate everybody being here. I'd like to call the meeting to order and have confirmation of the posting and roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. The agenda was posted in accordance with Nevada Open Meeting Law. We have Councilmember Walton, Councilwoman Jorgensen, Mayor Hardy, and Councilmember Booth present. We have a quorum. Councilmember Matt Fox will be here shortly.
Thank you. And if everyone can stand with us as we have our invocation, and Todd Kent, who will offer that from Calvary Chapel, Boulder Church. Appreciate you being with us, Pastor.
Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for your grace and your mercy that you've told us is new every morning. Thank you also, Lord, that you've given us your written word. And Lord, as the Apostle Paul reminded us that what you've written in your word, those things that were written of old were written for our admonition. They were written so that we might learn from their mistakes, God. Lord, we have so many examples of your people Israel that were called to you but then walked away. And Lord, you gave them up into captivity. And until they came, Lord, to that place where they recognized that truly, Lord, you are on the throne. Lord, you've told us that righteousness exalts a nation, but that, Lord, ungodliness, Lord, is a reproach to all people, God. So, Lord, we just ask that you would soften our hearts and help us to seek that true wisdom from you. Lord, I ask for the city council and the mayor, Lord, that you would give them your wisdom, Lord, not just things that are easy decisions, but, Lord, things that are the right decisions. And, Lord, we also lift up the governor, we lift up the president and the leadership of this country. God, in times of great crises, I just pray that we would seek your wisdom, Lord. For we not only pray for this country, but also for Israel and the great catastrophes that have happened there. Lord, even American citizens that have been killed and gone into captivity, we lift them up to you and pray, God, your protection for them. Just pray that your wisdom, your peace would reign today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Appreciate that prayer, Pastor Kent. My heart is full as we consider the things that are happening in the Middle East. And as we return home, we recognize that our lives, fortunately, go on as we even remember those who have been cut short. But we will go on. We will do what we need to do, supportive in every way of good people doing good things. And with that in mind, we will have a public announcement, under public announcement, a proclamation that I will read. City of Boulder City Proclamation, Office of the Mayor. Whereas the community club has sponsored Doodlebug Bazaar since 1974, and whereas Doodlebug Bazaar features 130 booths of handcrafted items, and whereas the Doodlebug Bazaar is a phenomenon that brings the community together, and whereas behind the scenes, the community club members have manned committees to make the Doodlebug Bazaar a success, and whereas the Doodlebug Bazaar generates approximately $20,000, which is donated to various Boulder City organizations. Now I therefore, Joe Hardy, Mayor of Boulder City, Nevada, do hereby proclaim December 2nd, 2023 as Doodlebug Bazaar Day. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Boulder City, Nevada to be affixed this 9th day of October 2023. Joe Hardy, Mayor. We appreciate Doodlebug Bazaar, and we now have a photo opportunity. And we also want to recognize that Councilman Fox is very timely in his presentation today to be in the photo.
So, well, and Koki, right? Since you're the president of the,
So this is Zoodle.
Cheryl is the vice president, so. Okay, come on.
you guys, yeah, take
There
center
we go.
stage. Oh, look at
Okay,
Matt's at center
Come on,
stage.
Matt's- Ready, and 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Thank you. Take this? Yes.
Cheryl. Koki, thanks for.
You're welcome.
We will now open the meeting up for public comment, and that is, this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specified agenda item. And do we have anyone who's called in or who has written anything in?
No written comments were submitted.
Okay, and anyone here would like to come forward and speak in public comment? And if someone wants to call in, 702-589-9629. And while someone here is willing and wanting to come in and talk to or come up in front of us and say anything about the agenda, we would welcome that. And now that I've said the number and waited an obligatory almost a minute, we will proceed. We will go now to the regular agenda. And I need a motion to approve the regular agenda.
To approve regular agenda.
Motion to approve the regular agenda, second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those, I need an approval to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
The motion has been made to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I
There was-
need a second, and I'll take that from
I'll second.
Councilman Fox. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Both were unanimous. Thank you. We'll move to the regular agenda, and on the regular agenda, we have a presentation from our Police Chief, Tim Shea, and the Police Department, Public Safety, and Animal Control, and whatever you want, Chief.
Good evening. I probably need a lesson on this pointer here. There we go. My life story. Well, good evening. And tonight I'm pleased to present kind of an overview of the police department crime stats for last year, as reported to us through the FBI, U.S. Department of Justice. And I do a little bit different here. We have sections of our department. I have what I consider my command staff, Deputy Chief Johnson, Lieutenants Healing and Albowitz, and Support Services Manager Perkins, who will each speak briefly on parts of their office and what they're working on right now. So you also get to see them, and they get to talk about their folks. So with the added positions, and Deputy Chief Johnson is going to talk about it later, we had to do a little bit of a reorganize with the police department. And this is how we're organized now. So we have divisions, and below divisions are bureaus, and these bureaus are functions. A lot of them are functions. And you can see who's now responsible for what and who reports to who for what. So Lieutenant Healing has the operations division. He has patrol, which includes K-9, traffic. He has training and recruiting. The big stuff there, all that big group of everything you can think of in the world falls under Lieutenant Albwitz in the Administrative Division. And then under Support Services Manager Perkins is, our secretarial and support staff, records, evidence, and 911. So it looks kind of interesting, but if you look for the Port Services Manager, she has one heck of a lot of people reporting directly to her because there are no supervisors between her and the line level people. So she has it takes quite a bit of work because she's responsible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for what goes on in that division. So this is what used to be called under the Uniform Crime Reporting, which started way back in the 30s. There were 8 crimes, Part 1 crimes that reported. Now that system is no longer being used in most places. We're slowly but surely changing it to NIBRS. But to make sense out of this chart, I was able to go in and extrapolate that data to show you the differences. And again, I bring it all the way back 20 years. So you can see the rises and falls in those kind of crimes. I added simple assaults, kidnap, abduction, because those weren't included before, but they are included through NIBRS. So you can see the differences. The ones in red went up, the ones in blue went down from the year before. So the difference also with the NIBRS is we went from 8 Part 1 crimes. Now there are 22 Group 8 categories that now have 46 offenses in them. And they added a whole new 12 categories under a new section called Crimes Against Society. So we're reporting all of these things now, and as this system gets more robust, we'll be able to extrapolate and pull out all that data. So if you're wondering, well, what in the world are crimes against society? Crimes against society are drug, narcotic offenses, gambling offenses, pornography, obscene material, prostitution offenses, and weapons law violations. Those are crimes against society is under this new system. The other thing this system does is before, if a person went into a place and committed a series of crimes, maybe burglary, assault, rape, and ended up with a murder, all you saw was the murder. Not anymore. Every crime is extrapolated out and that the person commits is in there. So you're going to see data changing for a lot of places. You're going to say, oh my gosh, you got this big spike. There's no additional crime. It's improved additional reporting. And in some cases, when you come to some of the crimes, they're only reporting the arrests. Other crimes, it's the incidents of victimization. So it's quite an interesting system as we all get used to it. Not everybody's doing it yet. Am I pretty close on that, Ruby, I hope? But we're doing really well on it. We were one of the pilot programs, and they come to us occasionally to see how things are working, so I think we've done really well. If you have any questions about those, you can see they just fluctuate back and forth, but they pretty much stay the same. There are very little fluctuations. But we do a lot more than just that. Police agents, we handle roughly on view and calls about 18,000 events a year, roughly, give or take a few here and there. And the dispatchers handle thousands of calls over and above the event totals, because a lot of people call in for different things. And so when you think about all these, and you think about all these events, and you think about the crimes that I showed, these are all occurring within 365 days. So if you can notice here also that the red ones went up from last year, the blue ones went down, and I put last year's in the brackets in black so you can see the changes that took place. So this is for 21, where things were down quite a bit because we still had the effects of COVID. For example, alarms went up. Well, I think the reason alarms went up is because a lot more people went back to work and now their alarms are going off at their house before they were all home. So nothing really, alarming here. I added a couple that I know people are interested in, such as vagrancy, panhandling, and begging. You see they're up to 156 from 95 the year before. And there's some crossover in here. They're not all purely separated. It's very difficult to do all that, so some of them are bunched together from a whole bunch of events. I just had to categorize and stick in there. Otherwise, we would have many, many more categories. You wouldn't be able to read all the stuff. Vandalism, and I took from vandalism, I took out the graffiti. And you can see graffiti is down about almost 50%. So those are our events. This kind of shows where we sit. These are some organizations that put out crime data and speak about the different cities and jurisdictions. And these are the ones that list us as the lowest crime municipality in the state. And you can see under Area Vibes, we have an A+ rating. We're 65% below total crime, 59% below on violent crime, 66% below the national average for crime. So we're pretty crime-free. This kind of shows us a relative chart. If we had 100,000 people, where we would sit compared to the state, national. And for us, from 21 to 22, violent crime was down 64%. The state was up 7.2%. Our property crime was up 1.5%. The state was up over 8%. Burglary was down for us 11.4%. State went up 8%. Our clearance rate is 22.6%. The state average is 16.8%. So we have a better clearance rate. Auto theft here was down 15%. The state was up 15%. Our clearance rate is 13.5%. The state's 8.7%. Our larceny went up 11.5%. The state's went only up 6%. Our clearance rate with larceny is 8%. The state's 11.2%. Just so you know, there was 46,000 larceny cases in the state. Arrests for property crimes up 33%. The state was up 12%. There are 76,000 arrests in the state just for property crimes in a year. The overall property clearance rate for us is 11.95%. The state's 11.8%, so we're right in line with the state average there. Our arrestee data is interesting. 62.5% are male, 37.5% are female. According to NIBRS, because of the way we categorize people racially, 100% of our arrests are considered white. Well, that includes Hispanic and Latino. Of that, 68% are non-Hispanic or Latino. So a majority of the people we white fit into the Caucasian. Domestic violence is down 13%, state's down 3%. Our victim gender for domestic violence, 75% female. Our offender gender is 71% male. And our arrested gender is 62% male, 37% female. And this is an interesting one that as this area is growing, crimes against the elderly. For us, crimes against the elderly are up 38%. 85% of those are abuse, and 14% are exploitation. The state actually went down 5%. They're down to 10,000 cases of crimes against the elderly. And for them, 87% are abuse. Animal control. This is an area I'm again, particularly proud of our folks. It's a very difficult job. You all know what things were like just a few years ago, and the staff up there has turned it into a model program. We are a no-kill shelter. Last year's data is up there. And the reason we have a higher disposition number for impounds is because some of the animals came in prior to 22. And our euthanasia rate remains steady between 3% and 4%. And we don't just kill animals because they're a nuisance. We don't kill them because we're overcrowded. The ones that we have to euthanize usually fall into two categories. One is they can't be saved, or they are such a vicious animal that we can't even take them to secondary places that we would use to take animals that are questionable. So under the advice of vets, normally they are euthanized, but our rate is extremely low. To qualify as a no-kill shelter, you have to have a 90% save rate, and we're far above that. And we have 127 wild animals, and the wild animals has gone up quite a bit, according to Ann. We have lots of snakes, ring-tailed cats, and now we're seeing raccoons. So we've had a change in the wild animals. For the next section here, Lieutenant Healing. brings up the little sections.
I'll just pull them all up now. Oh, there it is. All right. Good evening. I'll keep it shorter than I did last year. I was kind of long-winded last year, so I'll try and make this short and sweet. Thank you for the opportunity I had, Chief, and for the City Council. I just returned back in June from Quantico, Virginia, where I spent 2.5 months at the FBI's National Academy, training with some of the finest law enforcement executives around the world. So I appreciate the opportunity to go and experience that. Thank you all. I'll start with patrol because it's clearly the most visible face of our operations in the city. Some of the big things that we're seeing, a lot of the residents are noticing the homelessness around the city. I can tell you that it probably hasn't increased that much. We see the same people over and over again, but I want to put your any kind of concerns you have at ease that we're not really seeing a big increase in homeless. We're just seeing the same people out and about more and more. One of the things that Patrol has experienced is an increase in fentanyl. We've come across a lot more fentanyl recently, and last month, as a matter of fact, 3 of our officers were exposed to fentanyl and had to go to the hospital to get cleared. We had to call out the Clark County Armor Task Force, which is their all-hazard regional multi-agency operations and response section. It consists of members from several different agencies across the valley. They specialize in hazmat, in dangerous situations, explosives, that sort of thing. They had to completely mitigate an entire apartment, a dead body. They had to reclaim the water that was used to mitigate all this. It was a big deal. We had to call out Henderson for assistance on that with their fire department. They were a big help. And lastly, with patrol, we've seen a flurry of increases in resistance to officers, active resistance, physical resistance. And I'll get into that a little bit later. It's not a trend that we're seeing. It just seems like a flurry, but it goes with some of the stuff that I want to discuss in training. With detectives, one of the main things I want to address is the concern of the national trend to see overdose deaths. We're not seeing that here. In fact, we are below the average for where we have been in the past. For your information, in 2019, we had 3. In 2020, we had 7. In 2021, we had 3. And so far, we have 4 in 2023. So it's not anything greater than it has been in the past. If you extrapolate that out for the year, 2 a month would be 8 per year, and we're below that average right now. With respect to directed patrol, that's our proactive investigation team. It consists of three investigators, 1 detective and 2 officers. They identified a pretty good need from some of the cases that they've been working for our agency to keep up with technology. A lot of cell phone investigations, a lot of computer investigations, and we've been behind the 8 ball. I spoke with Chief Shea, and he's trying to get that in to the budget in fiscal year 2025, which I really appreciate because it's going to help all of our investigators tremendously moving forward, because as we advance in technology, the criminals take advantage of that technology, and we've got to keep up. I'll move on to recruiting now. With recruiting, we're still trying to recruit. We continue and maintain an active eligibility list for recruits, for these people that have to go through the academy and then come out and go through field training, as well as lateral officers that come from different agencies. They don't have to go to an academy in most instances. They come right on. We send them through field training, and they get certified, and they're out on the road. One of our training sergeant, Sergeant Tiffany Driscoll, attended some training with Lourdes Martin with Human Resources recently. So we're looking forward to kind of combining forces with the Human Resources Department and some of our efforts through social media and other ways that we've been recruiting. On to training. We continue to exploit the relationship with Henderson Police Department. We've done active assailant training again. We were down at Sam Boyd Stadium this year, where we did all kinds of scenario-based training with what's called simunitions, where you shoot at each other, and it's not with a real bullet, but it still hurts a heck of a lot. That training has been invaluable to us in preparation for any kind of incident that may occur here in town. With respect to the flurry of increase of uses of force, we're seeing a lot of people that are not complying the way they used to in the past. And with that, it's caused us to use force more frequently. Now, this isn't a trend that's been going on all year. It's just something we've seen in the last several months. I don't know if it's the weather or what it is, but we're going to adjust some of our defensive tactics training to meet what we're seeing the need for. And some of that might include a request from me, Chief, to increase our training budget significantly, but that's going to be up to you ultimately. And that's all I have for now. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Lieutenant. We appreciate the fact that we're maximizing the opportunities to train with other agencies. One of the training benefits we've received was our responses to the false alarms, fortunately, to the school, right, that had been, I think, mutual aid partners had participated in that training just prior to those starting to happen. Is that right?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I think it was a week or two after we wrapped up that training with our local fire department and with the Henderson Police Department, the active assailant training, we had a major false alarm at the high school. And when we responded, every officer on scene fell right back on their training. I was extremely proud of the way everybody handled themselves and the job that they did in that, even though it was a false alarm. There was no fear in anybody's eyes. We all went in expecting to confront evil, and we did it willingly.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, and appreciate the focus on the issues that are timely, right, that we're focusing on. You talked about that. The resistance to officers raises a great concern, right, because it's unsafe for the officers, as well as, bystander citizens that might get kind of caught up in what's going on. Not to get into specifics to give away your trade secrets, but what's happening with the police department to try and be more effective there? What are some of the tactics that you're considering?
Well, traditionally in the past, we've relied a lot on our tools, tasers, which can be effective and might not be effective, batons, which you pull out and strike somebody with. The optics are terrible, and the effectiveness is questionable at best. Even hands, fists, and feet, kneeing suspects on the ground it still looks terrible, and it's limited in its effectiveness. So what we've gone to is more of a ground-based control and restraint type training. I don't know if you're familiar with the UFC, but it's heavily reliant on what's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and ground fighting techniques. Not so much striking and pummeling people into submission, but controlling safely. Being able to kind of just wear them out and take them into custody safely without having to resort to striking. Because anytime you strike somebody and it gets bloody, it looks terrible, and you add injuries that you probably don't actually need. But what we're seeing is that as we go through this training, the confidence level of the officers is increasing, their abilities are increasing, and they go into these situations where they're able to talk their way out of it a lot more, knowing that they can handle themselves physically. But still, we have people that are just non-compliant no matter what we do. And that's the fear that we have. So we want to train significantly more frequently.
Thank you. I think I'll just ask two more questions. And one is there a trend generally, since you're talking about ops, right, that we're seeing much of the crime that that was reported from our own Boulder City residents, or is a fair amount coming from folks that are not necessarily citizens, either passing through or coming into town? Any thoughts on that?
That's a great question, and it's hard to answer. Our cops are out there working tremendously hard, and they are very proactive. I don't know if you drive through town at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night and see 3 or 4 police cars on traffic stops. A lot of our business comes from traffic. A lot of our business comes from consensual encounters with suspicious individuals. But there are those calls for service where people are victimized, where residents victimize other people. So I would say the overwhelming majority of the victimizers, the people that actually commit the crimes, are residents. But it's not because there's any kind of increase in an overall trend. I'm not sure where to go with that question, to be perfectly honest with you. I would say the majority is our locals.
Okay.
But we do get our fair share of outsiders, especially, well, it's fewer and farther between now with the the completion of the bypass. We're just not out on the highway the way we used to, seeing all the transient traffic going back and forth.
Fair enough. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Enough, yeah, yeah. I get that it's, it's not necessarily a black and white, clean answer, and yeah. Finally, you had commented on the increase, the encounters with fentanyl, yet our overdose deaths is down, so that's great in that those are down, but use or discovery is up. How do you make that correlation and why?
Fentanyl is becoming more available. It's not a supply and demand question, in my opinion. It's whatever the drug cartels want to push north. And in this instance, fentanyl is extremely cheap to purchase and make and flood the market with. It's extremely addictive, so they can switch customers from, let's say, methamphetamine to fentanyl. If they limit the availability of methamphetamine and flood the market with heroin or fentanyl, it's your only option. People want to get high. They're going to go get high on whatever they can get their hands on. We're seeing less heroin because heroin is expensive. It's expensive to process. It's expensive to transport from wherever it's coming from, generally in South and Central Mexico. But it's not. There's no profit in heroin. There's not the profit in heroin that there is in fentanyl. So yes, we are seeing a dramatic increase. Just recently, too, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've seen a significant increase in fentanyl. Now, that doesn't mean much. We're still small. We're not seeing it like Las Vegas Metro is, but we're seeing it much more frequently that it's actually rose to my attention.
And associated with that, are we doing our best to keep our school-age citizens free from exposure to these things?
Everything we can within the limits of the Constitution and the law, yes, sir. We have a proactive investigative unit that is out there every day trying to identify who's in possession of it, who's selling it, who's bringing it in, and where it's coming from as a source. If you follow the news, most of the major investigations, narcotics related, that we do here end up back in Las Vegas or Henderson. So they're on top of it as much as they can be. I'm really proud of the work they've done, and we're doing everything we can to keep the kids safe, for sure. We each officer has access to naloxone, which is Narcan.
Right.
It's basically the antidote to any kind of opiate. But we are seeing another threat now, which is xylazine, which is an opiate-like narcotic, but we can't reverse the effects of xylazine. When they're cutting fentanyl with xylazine now, so it's the naloxone is becoming less and less effective if it's tainted with xylazine.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Mayor, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I had 2 questions. One was, when you're working with the high school, would you assure the kids that you're over there and you know how the school's laid out? What kind of training do you do to make sure the kids are safe when there is a threat of a gunman on campus?
Thank you for the question. We consistently train every year at the high school. In fact, the training that we conducted just prior to the fake active shooting call was done at the high school. We've worked in conjunction with the high school to actually set signage in the hallways, because during our training we identified that we didn't know where we were, so we needed to know which hallway we were in, where we were going. So we have access to maps. We do walkthroughs occasionally throughout the year during this training, so everybody's familiar with the layout of the school. We work closely with the admin there, and we have a school resource officer that's always there every single day, and if he's not there, somebody is there to replace him.
Okay, is that school officer, is he armed or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and my final question is, are we seeing more drugs in the high school, or is that tapering off, or is it about the same?
I think it's probably about the same. Generally, you have the same number of kids generation after generation that kind of want to be experimental, and I don't think it's changed much. No, ma'am.
Do we have a number on that, a percentage?
I wish I did, but I don't, and I don't even know if I'd be able to get those numbers for you.
Because they're minors?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that be why? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're one of 2 jurisdictions in Clark County that have municipal officers in the school, just us and Mesquite, nobody else. Otherwise, it's school police, or there's nobody. But it's one of our police officers that's stationed there. Next is Lieutenant Albowitz.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I have the privilege of standing before you to give you some updates on some of the things my division has been doing, and hopefully I will be able to answer your questions at the end. So I'd like to start off with radio communications. For those who are unaware, Boulder City is a member of the Southern Nevada Area Communications Council, otherwise known as SNAC, and they operate an 800 megahertz land mobile radio system for mission-critical operations such as our police department and our fire department. Part of the way we reach that system in Las Vegas, our dispatchers have to use a microwave system, and that microwave transmits from the police department to the top of Red Mountain. Last year, we did replace that system because the one that we currently, or the one that we had prior to that, was being phased out. They weren't going to service it any longer. And there was a new way of changing the way that the data goes through. So we replaced it, and in order to monitor that and keep it up and going, we recently been working with the system provider, which is Aviat, to provide that service to us. We're in the process of getting that shored up. We think in about 2 weeks or so, we should have them on board where they'll be able to monitor that remotely. And if there's any issues with the system, they'll be able to come in remotely and take care of that, or if there's something that needs to be serviced or they need to send somebody out, their technicians will respond and take care of it immediately. There is also a backup for that. If something were to go down, we do have repetitive systems where the dispatchers still would be able to continue to do their jobs. It would just become a little bit more difficult for them because they wouldn't be able to use their current headsets and stuff, but we would still be able to provide operations and be able to provide quality service. So we're just always looking to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we have our best equipment and stuff. The next thing is the security projects. We were given a task by prior council that they gave us some specific things that they wanted to see and not see, where they wanted to make sure that we had some cameras in the police department, the city hall, and animal control, but they didn't want it looking like one of the casinos where they were everywhere. So we had a certain thing that we had to stay within. We also had to work with our bandwidth and how we were going to do this. There's 2 ways to really have cameras on a security system. The old-fashioned way would be is you'd have some type of NDVR or something that would be recording and you would keep it on premise. That doesn't go with what our city is currently doing, which is having stuff in the cloud. So working with our IT department, we were able to identify 2 different companies that provided a service that would work for us and not take up all the bandwidth. And we vetted both of those, and what was ultimately decided was we were going to go with a company called Verkada out of San Mateo, California. They were the better bid and better quality product. They're currently being put up. They have not been released to us yet. They are up in the animal control shelter. They are at the PD, and we're in the process of putting them up in the city hall as we speak. There's one right above your heads, and unfortunately we had to stop for Art in the Park to finish up the project, but we're expecting that to be completed in the next couple of weeks. And those security cameras will be monitored by the security officer that sits in the hallway, and also be able to be monitored by the police department and anyone else we decide to give access to. So if there is something going on at City Hall and the officers do respond, they will be able to watch it remotely as they either respond or dispatch could watch and report. One of the other things that we were given a task on is that we had some issues with our parks and where the children congregate and stuff, and the council gave us a specific directive. They did not want every park to have cameras. They didn't want people to feel uncomfortable, but yet we had a need to find a way to prohibit crime and make sure people were safe. So we identified another company, and Mobile Pro Systems, and part of this security project was we bought 2 security cameras, camera trailers, which you may have seen at Art in the Park recently, and we have 4 pole cameras and 1 portable camera. Currently, they're being deployed. And I could tell you for sure they've had a direct effect on any type of crime. For instance, the National Park Service, they have a trailhead down by Lake Mead, and a lot of our citizens go down there to hike, and their cars are being broken into. They don't have that system, so we took one down there, and for about 2 weeks it sat there, and they did not have one break into any car while it was there. So we were seeing a great result with these things. And so the last and probably the most important one that most people seem to be interested in is our department vehicles. It has been a real challenge to get department vehicles. The new norm for today is not like it was in the past. At one point in time, you were able to place an order with Ford or whoever you were ordering vehicles from, and it would take about 3 months for the vehicle to show up. Now they're opening and closing windows without us being able to respond in time. Sometimes it doesn't work for government because we're given money to spend after a certain month in the calendar year, and they open and close the window of ordering before that even occurs. For instance, we ordered 8 patrol cars last August, a little over a year ago, and we're still waiting for half of them to show up. Now, I've been told they were on a train and they should be showing up shortly. Now, normally, we would have already ordered the next year's in August, but they didn't open the order banks. In fact, I'm being told by Ford they are going to open them sometime this month, and they were going to open and close very quickly, and they were going to build the 24 model year for police cars through December, and that's it. And then sometime next year, they'll open it for 2025. So we are constantly looking for ways to be innovative and keep up with the trends and keep up with our needs of the department. We were fortunate enough to find 4 police vehicles that were unallocated on the East Coast. We were able to purchase those and bring those out here. The second one was built and delivered today, and the other 2 should be built shortly. And that's a good thing because we need them. We're losing cars left and right. Some of them are so old where the motors are blowing up even though they're properly maintained. They are rapidly approaching 100,000 miles plus, and it's just not a good place to be. But fortunately, thank you to the council and to people with the foresight, we were able to buy these vehicles a little bit earlier outside the box, so to speak, and we were able to respond and we were able to keep up with the trend. Currently, all we're waiting for to be caught up for this fiscal year are the 4 remaining cars that should have been delivered last year, and we're waiting for 2 F-150 responders that will go to our K-9 unit. Lastly, the electric vehicles. Yep. So go ahead, Chief. There you go. So the electric vehicles have been a real success so far. You know, we haven't had them in patrol for very long because even though we purchased them about a year ago, they haven't been outfitted for the entire year. We recently had those outfitted, and they've been out for the majority of the year, I would say. They have not been in the shop for anything, and they ran constantly. In fact, the only complaint I get from the officers that are assigned to them is they don't like the undue attention that it's drawn to them. You know, people want to come up and, hey, can I check out your car? And it's a great icebreaker for the public, right? We like to explain it. We like to let them look at them. In fact, we recently participated in the Clark County EV program that was a couple weekends ago over at Clark County. I felt kind of bad because when I showed up there, it seemed like the majority of the crowd was over talking to us and ignoring most of the other people. So everybody likes the police cars and the EVs. It was a great hit. But successfully, you know, typically when you're dealing with a gasoline-powered car, they have to go into the shop for either some type of oil change or some type of maintenance every 30 or 40,000 miles. Each manufacturer is different. They have to have some kind of required maintenance. These things, they're not required. It's brakes, you charge them up, brakes and potentially tires. That's all you're going to do. And so far, the only repair I know of in the almost a year that we've had them out is the Mach-E here, pictured right there on your left. Did hit a little chunk of metal on the roadway, and we had to replace 1 tire. That is it, and it was back on the road right away. It's a big thing because the officers, that's their office. And when they sit in there and they have to give that office up and move into an office they're unfamiliar with, it kind of causes a little bit of issue for them because they have to get used to something, and it's generally repaired within a day or two. The other thing where we save at is if we have a vehicle that is gas-powered that's under warranty and it has to go to the dealership, typically it takes a couple people to take the vehicle down there, and we lose people because somebody has to follow them down there and pick them up after the vehicle's dropped off. If something happens with these electric vehicles, the majority of stuff can be fixed remotely by Tesla, so to speak. They can go in there and just fix it, or they may dispatch a service van right here. Fortunately for us, we haven't had any of that issue. These have been great. And I think it kind of fits with our city because we don't own gas stations, but we do own the power here. And this is a great way of utilizing one of our resources here. And what we're paying to fill these up with electricity is far less than what we would pay for gasoline. So it's been a very big success for us as far as I'm concerned. And I think as far as the officers who are driving them are concerned. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that the next project we will be working on is we will be updating our mobile command vehicle. Some of the things that when we inherited it for the fire department were a little outdated. There was some things that were no longer functioning, that parts weren't available for, as far as like the camera that's on the back and stuff. So that is the next project that we will be working on, but we have not started yet. And with that, I will be glad to try to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions? I just have one. When we talk about the highway patrol, for instance, do we have the means to have a bandwidth or the right band in order to talk to the highway patrol and vice versa?
So the highway patrol is a little different. So we do share radio channels with Las Vegas Metro and pretty much every other police department in the valley. Highway patrol we share a computer system with, so we are able to communicate back and forth with them, and we can see each other's calls. Their radio system is a little bit dated, and they're not quite using everything that we are. They're in the process of working with another vendor, not Motorola, which is what SNAC uses. They're in the process of using, I think it's Harris Radio, and they're building out their system. And once they get that done, we should be able to share channels a little bit more easily. Even though we are using different technologies, we can patch channels though and still communicate with each other if necessary. The other thing that is available to our officers and to every officer in the state is there's what they call IOP channels, which they are able to communicate if for some reason we needed to communicate with somebody who didn't have a radio in common, a channel in common, we would be able to go to these IOP channels and speak to them because generally every radio is programmed with them.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other?
Yes.
Councilwoman?
I think you said, do we have 4 mobile, or was it 2 trailers?
Two mobile,
Two mobile.
two camera trailers. We have 4 what we call pole cameras. One sits right behind the city council chambers here in Bicentennial Park right now. It's mounted. And one is a portable camera that we can mount anywhere as well. And all these pole cameras have the ability to be moved around. Currently, there are 2 down at the Boulder Creek Golf Course. There's one over at the intersection of Nevada Way and Wyoming. And then, like I mentioned, one at the rear City Hall in Bicentennial Park because we had Art in the Park coming and stuff like that. So we do have the ability to move these around and plan to do so.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Do you rotate them around, and do you find that you have a need for more of them?
Well, I think that we could always use more. I mean, like I said, with what we've seen, it's basically, it prevents things from happening for sure. People do not want to be on camera. And I think that there's always a potential to be able to have a few more, but I would probably defer to the chief and what the plan is to how many more he would like to see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Lieutenant.
We put one up in Albertson's parking lot. While it was up, all their shoplifts stopped. So they are interesting. Our thing about our camera system too, our emphasis is on the safety of people, not the protection of property. So when you see like the cameras here in City Hall, it's for employee protection and protection of people who come here. That's our primary goal of what we're doing. So a little bit different than some other systems you might see that protect assets. We're concentrated on people. The next, Ruby for services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to start with just a quick overview of one of the functions of my evidence division. In 2018, we were gifted an industrial strength incinerator by the state of Nevada. It was part of their program, their initiative and that was titled the Prescription Addiction Initiative for the purpose of destroying prescription drugs and illicit drugs that were seized by law enforcement. Part of the agreement that we made in accepting the incinerator was we would partner with local other agencies and assist them in destroying what they collected also. So to date, we have agreements with 8 agencies in place, including Henderson and North Las Vegas, to name just a couple of them. The focus that I want to do for the remainder of my time is on my communications center, on the city's communications center, because this is going to kind of be my soapbox for them. So the 911 public safety dispatchers provide service to the public 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They're the first point of contact, but they rarely, if ever, meet the public whom they serve. They're detached from the scene and less visible than the responder colleagues, but they are subject to comparable levels of stress and secondary trauma. In recent years, recruitment and retention levels have been falling. Nationally, 82% of centers are understaffed. We currently have 8 full-time dispatcher positions. We've been vacant with one of them for approximately a year now, and that's just been due to recruitment, to trying to find qualified applicants that can pass the testing process, pass the backgrounds to get in. We've finally found that person, and she's currently in training, so we're hoping to have her fill that vacancy soon. We currently try to staff with 2 dispatchers on a 12-hour shift. Our ideal staffing would consistently be that, but people take vacations, they get sick, life happens, and it brings our staffing level down to 1. This is referred to our minimum staffing level, which means we can still operate, but no one is called in for overtime. In the 24 years I've worked for the department, it's remained unchanged. And I don't think it's quite understood the amount of work and stress that's put on one person handling everything that comes into the center by themselves for 12 hours. It isn't just the long hours, it's the activity that goes along in the center at any given day. In addition to several 911 and non-emergency phone lines, they monitor text to 911, communicate with officers, animal control, fire personnel by radio. They have to enter and continually update the calls for service in the computer-aided dispatch system. They also use that to track 911 calls if the caller's unable to give us a location. They deal with citizens in the lobby. They process arrests and court paperwork. They take reports for utility outages. They enter stolen property and missing persons into a national database, and the list just goes on and is extensive. And this is a routine day. But then when you add in what invariably always happens when somebody's by themselves, when we're staffed at 1, there's an accident with serious injuries or a house fire, and every line starts lighting up. You've got both police and fire radios going at once, both looking for resources, and you're the person that has to call out and get all these resources going by paging, phone. And along with all that, you're still having to document in the CAD system everything that's going on, timeline of what the officer says, what the fire person says, who the person that you talked to on the phone, what their communication was, getting accurate locations, getting accurate description, all of this so that you can give it to your responders that are going so they have the information that they need to do their job. And in addition to that, mind you, this is just on top of that. So at the same time, they're still doing the normal stuff. The officer's on a traffic stop or on a disturbance that are needing the people they're with run for wants. The phone calls for a medical emergency, so they're giving medical pre-arrival instructions. So all of this is on one person that's just handling it and doing it, but it's hectic. It's a pace that's crazy for 2 people, but when it's just one, it's overwhelming. As the number of officers and firefighters continue to grow to serve our city, we're not growing the staff to support them. We should be at minimum staffing levels of 2 to be able to hand 2 dispatchers on duty at all time to cover the needs of our community with the highest level of service that these professionals have trained for. To do that, we would need 4 additional dispatchers. And a common misconception that I've dealt with years is, well, anybody can sit down and answer the phone, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is it takes a lot to be one of these responders. And by the way, they are being recognized finally in numerous states as first responders, but they have to be certified in the following areas: CPR, emergency medical dispatching, call assessment, call taking, fire dispatching, police dispatching. These are just the certifications that they renew every 2 years. In addition, they have to complete a 16-week in-house dispatcher training program. They complete the Nevada Police Officer Standards and Training course and exam for emergency dispatchers. And then, once they think they're done, they're not, because I also require that they continue their education with 4 hours every month of continuing education that includes things like active shooter training, specific medical conditions, any training that will keep their skill levels up to the newest tools and techniques to do their jobs. Dispatchers have always been the faceless, behind-the-scenes professionals that juggled and made sense of the chaos and that comfort the distraught caller in need while they wait for help to arrive. For too long, they've not been recognized, and we need to bring the staffing levels up so that we're supporting them as much as we do our other responders. In addition to the staffing levels, we're attempting to improve their working environment. We've been working for several years to get a remodel, and it's finally slated to be moving forward at some time in the near future. Any of you who've not seen our current dispatcher are welcome to give me a call and come tour and kind of see the space and what we're trying to achieve. And to wrap up, because I know everybody likes numbers, the center answered approximately 27,077 phone calls. Of those, 5,492 were 911 calls, and the average answer time for those 911 calls is 4.1 seconds. There were 14,601 police calls for service created and 2,649 calls for fire and medical. And as I step down from my soapbox, any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, and when you do, say thank you to her.
You know, that was on my mind to do, so thanks for the reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah. Amen to what you said, Ruby. I appreciate that report. And I've listened to a lot of the recordings of calls after the fact and heard the absolute expertise and composure of dispatchers, which is truly a superpower. And if we don't have a proclamation for them today, maybe one day, if anybody deserves some recognition, like you pointed out, dispatchers do, truly the unsung members of the emergency response team. So thank you for bringing that to light. And in those 27,000 plus calls, you're including 311 that they also have to answer?
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's so much, I mean, anytime anything goes on, 311, or if not 911, right? So they're...
Yeah, and the number's a little skewed because like when we get calls for major power outages, when it's like whole neighborhood of blocks, they'll open one call and then they'll just continually add the neighborhoods into that one call rather than to keep having to create a new one. They just do one ongoing and add this neighborhood called, this neighborhood called, this neighborhood called. So if they were in actuality creating, different calls for each one of those, it would rise significantly.
On your slide, your bullet point was remodeling / federal co-locating. I don't think you
So our
touched on
hope
that.
is, and it's still kind of dealing with the bureaucracy and talking heads. But the idea is that when we do get to the point where we have the go-ahead of we're ready to start ripping out the old and putting in the new, we will be relocating to the National Park Service dispatch and being able to work from there while our center is being remodeled and reconfigured for us. And they're very anxious and excited for us to be there. It's just finalizing all of the paperwork that goes along with that.
Right. Thank you, and thank you for the report. That in the 24 years, I think you said that you've been there, staffing levels have not changed significantly. That was your
So
meaning?
we didn't change until Chief Shea came. So I worked in dispatch for about 17 years before I moved to supervisory. So, and when I started there, we had 3 full-time and 1 part-time, and which was why we ended up going to 12-hour shifts, because we just couldn't cover it any other way. And we would be highs and lows, maybe go to 5, but we never consistently got up to a number that we could even part of the time have 2 dispatchers on at the same time until Shea got us there, which I never thought I'd see in my career here of accomplishing the impossible. And it's, like I said, it's awesome until it's not, when we're back down to 1. And it's frustrating on all levels, because, like I said, you want to provide the best you can for the officers, for the firefighters, and get them all this stuff, but it just gets to that point of it's prioritizing and getting the things done as fast as you can in the orders you can get to them.
Yeah, 100%. And in addition to not only talking to police and fire, when resources are requested from armor that was
Henderson.
mentioned, or, a
Life flight,
particular specialty,
helicopters
life flight,
going.
they're making
Yeah.
phone calls, and it truly is spinning plates on sticks.
I
and
have
it's
to
a
say,
very
we've been
difficult
so
job.
fortunate that we've so far been able to, because to me it's setting our people up for failure. There's only so much a human can do at one time, and we're always throwing in, because I'm huge on technology and I get all excited, like the text to 911, I'm like, woohoo, we can do this now, woohoo, and they're like, oh, great, you just gave us something else to do. So it's exciting because we have more tools available to us, but it's just more things, and like adding the cameras for the securities, that will now be lined in dispatch too. Again, we're adding more processes for these people to do, which is handleable for 2. But for 1, again, you're just throwing another piece of technology, another piece of something that they're expected to throw into the mix.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I had, just with the statement that certainly there's additional conversation to be had about that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm just wondering if this is your secret identity, or you're someone else when you get behind on the other side of the cameras and the other side of the phone calls. You deserve a cape or something. But thank you for
Well,
everything
we
you do.
appreciate the support.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oops. And next up is Deputy Chief Johnson. Talk about a couple.
Here comes the exciting stuff. Policy and records management. So about the beginning of the year, the chief and I were talking over some of the things that we probably should have started working on when our middle management was reconstituted. And one of the things that we did is we started talking about how we're managing our policies, or actually the lack thereof, and the reoccurrences and the legal updates that constantly have to be integrated into a policy in a police department. And because we don't really have anybody that can sit down, and an analyst and a legal team that can sit there and look at this and go over these policies and these legal updates on a constant basis, we reached out to a couple different organizations, one of them being the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, which is in conjunction with a sponsor of this company called Lexipol. And Lexipol manages risk management and policies for many agencies within the state of Nevada and throughout the western portion of the United States, which is very important because they're integrated into the Supreme Court of the United States. They're integrated into the Ninth Circuit Court, which is important to the state of Nevada. And they're also integrated into the Nevada State Legislative Cycle and our state Supreme Court. So anytime there's a legislative change or anytime there's a court decision, whether it's a federal change or a state change, their legal team is already updating these things, and it becomes an automatic change to these policies. So for about the past 5 months, Chief and I have been talking about these things, and we developed a team with Lieutenant Healing and our president of our police association, so that our membership, our department membership, could have input then into these policies as to, is there going to be contractual argumentation back and forth with some of these new policies, especially when it comes to personnel issues. So we're in the infinite stage of this. Right in the beginning, we're going to probably spend the next close to 12 months dealing with these policies until we're able to roll out this Lexipol policy completely. They're going to integrate what we have currently and then develop some best practices that we don't currently have. And then we're going to roll that out over the next 12 months. And we're going to have a policy that is continually being updated every single month, and then rolling out new policy for our officers, and then actually being able to test the officers on that knowledge so that they can say whether or not they understood the policy that was just rolled out. So it's kind of a neat program. And then we actually interviewed some of the end users, and one of them is Mesquite. The other one is Las Vegas DPS, the marshals in downtown Las Vegas, who are Lexipol users, and they love it because it is an automatic update. It's easy to manage, and then the officers get this real-time training on it that isn't, the statute just came out, we won't see an update for it for 6 months. No, Lexipol does it instantly, and then they're trained on it before it ever goes into effect, which is very, very important for us in our field. So that's one of the fun things we got going on. The saddest part about that, when the chief told me that this is what you're going to be doing, Deputy Chief, it dawned on me that the last time the deputy chief started working on policy updates, halfway through it, he was told, "Oh, we don't need your position anymore. You're back down to being a sergeant." So I hope that doesn't happen halfway through this project, but if it does, I had fun as a sergeant, so it was good. The next thing we are doing is our RMS CAD system, so the records management system, the computer automated dispatching system. We belong to the state's program. So our current system is Spillman. The state owns it, and what we have found out over the course of the lifetime we've been involved in this is that it's very difficult to get a change done. If we find something that we need to update or we need to modify or we want something added to this program, the most recent one is an evidence software we wanted added to this system. They don't mesh. They don't talk to each other. The computer systems, the software don't talk to each other. And you can't get Spillman or the software to talk to each other. It's been very difficult. We are close. Ruby has been working very hard with this new company to get it very close to being able to do it. But what we've been having to do for quite a long time is the officer would have to enter data into one system, go into another system, enter that same data again, and anytime you start duplicating efforts like that, you start having errors. And in our world, when you have errors in reports, you begin to have legal challenges. And so we have to be very, very, very careful with that information. So anytime you have evidence that doesn't match up two different reports, that evidence becomes challengeable in court. So what we're trying to do is eliminate those human errors by only having that evidence having to be entered into once in a report. So what we're doing right now is looking into different vendors that can help us streamline this process with a new records management system, a new CAD or new computer automated dispatching system that handles all of this in one system. Also, our fire department has purchased or is wanting to purchase a G2 fire station alerting system. I have no idea what that is, but it's very important to them, and it does not talk to Spillman either. And so we have two programs that don't talk to our current program, so it only makes sense to find a current computer automated dispatching system, a records management system that does what we need it to do, and stop essentially grabbing the coattails of another system, of the state system, and just go out there and find what we need. And that's what we're doing right now. But that's probably going to take about 18 months to get done. We're in the CIP process for getting the funding for that. It's going to be a chunk of change. It's going to be a little bit of money, but in the end, it's going to be worth it to our people. It's going to be worth it for us internally. And as a public safety aspect, the fire department isn't going to be able to get their system with our current system. So it's a need. It's not just a want. We need to make this change. It's needed for some time now. Is there any questions about that?
Any questions? Go ahead.
So who does Las Vegas and Henderson use? Or they suffer the same way you do?
Las Vegas Metro?
Yes.
Oh, they have a team of lawyers. They have a team of lawyers that handle their policies. Is that what you're talking about, their policy system?
No, the record keeping, where you said that the records
They're
don't-
the same thing. Las Vegas Metro is a kind of their own little group of people.
But they're having the same problem getting the program to mesh.
Nope, they're their own people. They build their stuff in-house. They do their own program. I call them, if you go look at Metro, I call, that's Metro-centric. If you see, if they have their own radio system, they have their own computer system, they have their own processes for everything. Matter of fact, a lot of our policies have come from Metro. We curt our use of force policy very closely to what they can. When it comes to Henderson, they're on a program called P1. It's a Motorola-based program. Spillman is a Motorola-based program, but it's kind of their Motorola bought Spillman and didn't pay much attention to Spillman. They would actually like Spillman to go away so that we all buy the Motorola product. But I know this is an open meeting. Motorola. Motorola is good at one thing, making radios. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's not the greatest program in the world, and it would not be a good fit for Boulder City.
So you're basically looking for a program that a small community like ours can use to get
Use
that.
and afford, yes. Yes, Motorola would be very expensive, or P1 would be very expensive. Motorola would be.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I don't so much have a question as much as I have some comments to make. And I see that Ruby's left, so I feel bad. I kind of wanted to wait to the end to be able to say this, so hopefully you could pass this on. I think the main reason people live and move here is because it's clean, green, Boulder City, but also it's safe. And I would think that the majority of people would be shocked by the numbers that sit in front of us today. And that's attributed to you guys, that we are safe or feel safe because of what you do. It takes many moving parts, as we've seen here tonight, to be able to make something function as a whole. And if each of you do your part, that makes it function as a whole. And I myself, as a citizen of this community, am grateful for that. I stand amazed at your willingness to go to work every day and to be able to put your lives and your families on the line, in a sense, to be able to make mine and my family safer. And so I just want to say how grateful I am, but I know it's not just me. I know it is our community and the people who move here for a reason. So thank you so very, very much.
Well, I have to say, personally, it's absolutely my honor to work for the city of Boulder City. It has been a dream of mine to be a police officer, and I left an agency to come here, and I can say without a doubt, the grass is greener on the other side. It absolutely is. It is a dream and a privilege to work for the city of Boulder City every single day. I do have one more comment this chief is going to have to add to his statistics next year, is the RAM cam has caused the animal control to have about another 400 calls for service every single week, I think. So, thank you.
Hold on. Yeah. Mayor, if I can, thank you. You have, in addition to the other reports that have been given, have pointed out that, for example, the team that you put together for policies, right, and to look over that from people that are already doing a multitude of other tasks. And I think we could recognize that there's a lot of people wearing many hats, and you're doing the absolute best you can with the time that you have in a day or a week or a year. And I think it's worth stating to the public from the dais here that, regardless of if you have 2,000 people citizens in your community or 20,000, there's a certain amount of things that have to be done no matter what. And that's been very evidenced here in your report. So we can't say, well, we're such a small town, we don't need X or Y or Z. Well, actually, in many cases, particularly our public safety, we do need it. We need the staffing to support the safety that Councilmember Jorgensen just referred to that we enjoy here in our community. So truly, hats off to all that's being done by everybody and wearing the multiple hats and becoming experts in a variety of fields. Even Lieutenant Albowitz has become an expert in many things, and I never would have thought that. And his high school teacher probably would have said the same thing, but we sure love you, Vinny. So you've pointed out that we're recognizing there are liabilities, right? From patrol officer to the police chief and everybody in between, it's about risk management, right? What's the risk to the community? What's the risk to the officers? What's the overall risk? What's the liability risk, the legal risk? And you're doing a fantastic job at recognizing the things we need to do to manage those risks. We appreciate that. And I think it's worth also noting that the world isn't the same today as it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and those liability windows are open far wider than they ever were. And so much more needs to be done by our police, all the support staff, the patrol staff, the detectives, and everybody that supports all of the work that gets done. And so there's so much that matters that we were able to maybe get by without in the past, that I think it's been pointed out that we really can't. There's a lot that needs to be done, and a lot of things that are being done. And I don't know if Spillman's going to call your phone number and blow it up with the report they got, but as I served in public safety in Boulder City, the nemesis for all things progress was Spillman. So I appreciate you pointing that out, and I hope we make some good progress with our RMS and CAD into the future. All those things you pointed out, I experienced in some degree firsthand, and support your assessment of that, and hopefully we can make good progress there to improve.
Thank you, we will.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief. What short presentation do you want to
Yeah,
finish up with?
I think I'm, I didn't plan on it going this long, of course, but, did I break something? Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I'm not going to go over all that. So I just wanted to say I want to thank you for the opportunity to do this. And I think one of the things I want to speak about, again, sometimes I get credit for things. It's not me, believe me. It's the men and women that work here and the men and women you had here when I got here. I can speak this with a lot of background and history. I have never worked with finer people. I have worked for large agencies, very large agencies. I've been all around this country. I've been to other countries and worked with police agencies. And these folks are as good as any and better than many. And they're absolutely committed to the community. We don't have people leaving here to go to other agencies, but they are coming here. And are we perfect? No, of course not. We're not. But the thing about us and what we need to do and what we keep trying to strive is that there is no city employees as a group that make more citizen contacts than your police. They contact citizens all day long, every day, all the time. We are the face of the city that most people see. Whenever you go to any place, that's who you run into the most of any city employee are your police. They're out in the street. They're out meeting people constantly, day in, day out. We're one of the few city employees that go into people's houses every day, every day. So it's very important that we hire the right people, train them properly, keep them trained properly, take care of their mental well-being to make sure they stay that way, because all this does take a toll. So again, I want to thank you. I'm sorry I didn't mean to take this long, but it is a very important part of the city. A lot of what we do, people don't understand. It seems like it's very foggy and behind a misty cloud. No one really knows what goes on or what we do. But I want to assure you that the men and women here are absolutely committed to doing the best job they possibly can and to serve the citizens here the way they need to be and should be served. And I'm very proud of them. I brag about them all the time. I'll be bragging about them all next week at a conference I'll be at. So I call back to Washington frequently and tell my old people in the sheriff's office I found work nirvana. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate the reports and the care that you do. We will move to item 8 on the agenda, which will be an introduction of bills number 1982 through 2006. So I would accept a motion to introduce bills number 1982 through 2006 and waive the reading except for titles.
I make a motion to introduce Bill number 1982 through 2006 and waive the reading except for the title.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. They're just introduced, and now that we'll hear the titles being read.
Introduction of Bill Number 1982, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-248B, TW3-16, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Steve Cottrell to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1983, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247C, TW3-18, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Richard A. Meyer or Deborah S. Meyer to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1984, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247B, TW3-20, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Falcon Point Limited to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1985, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247D, TW3-22, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Terrence O'Shaughnessy to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1986, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240F, TW3-24, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Michael Wiley and Patricia Miller to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1987, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240G, TW3-26, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Ray Furnick to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1988, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240F, TW3-28, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Mark Barrialt to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1989, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240E, TW3-30, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Richard and Marie Moynihan Family Trust to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1990, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240G, TW3-32, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and James J. Spots to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1991, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240E, TW3-34, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and MRK Revocable Living Trust to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1992, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240H, TW3-36, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Preston Conover to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1993, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240H, TW3-38, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and KG's Stock LLC to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1994, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-248F, TW4-13, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Justin Wallen to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1995, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-248C, TW4-15, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Ryan and Kristen English to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1996, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247C, TW4-17, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Gary Heyer to extend the term of the agreement for a period of 11 months. Introduction of Bill Number 1997, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247D, TW4-19, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Terry Austin to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 1998, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-247C, TW4-21, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Luther Tate to extend the term of the agreement for a period of 11 months. Introduction of Bill Number 1999, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240F, TW4-23, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Kyle Larson, DDS, PC, to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2000, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240G, TW4-25, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Mark Johnson to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2001, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240G, TW4-27, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and DC Rim, Inc., to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2002, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240E, TW4-29, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Jim Appleby to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2003, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240F, TW4-31, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Fred Breitling to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2004, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240E, TW4-33, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and Stephen Harbaugh to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2005, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240E, TW4-35, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and R&L Merrill LLC to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Introduction of Bill Number 2006, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, approving lease agreement number 93-240H, TW4-37, amending lease agreement between the City of Boulder City and KG's Stock LLC to amend and restate the agreement and extend the term of the agreement for a period of 10 years with one 10-year renewal option. Bill numbers 1982 through 2006 will be considered at the October 24th, 2023 regular City Council meeting.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All that being said, we will now open public comment. And if there's anyone here that would like to come up for public comment, they're invited to do so or to call in. And I don't think we have anyone that sent anything in. And the number to call is 702-589-9629 for public comment. We will wait just a few moments and ask anybody who's here if they'd like to come in and fill that void. See nothing on the phone line. We will close public comment and turn to City Council's report. And starting on my far right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a thank you to all who helped the Art in the Park happen so successfully. All the city staff, all the volunteers, the hospital board, and I couldn't continue to accurately name everybody involved, but as always, it's a great event, attended well, and I think the city got a lot of great exposure from as soon as you enter into our city limits all the way through the whole event. So thanks to all, and appreciate everybody's attendance there as well. Briefly, the Convention and Visitors Authority update. We're, I think, all aware that the Sphere has opened up downtown and opened with a U2 concert, and it was very well received, and that is giving great exposure to Las Vegas as a whole. The Sphere has received 3 billion media impressions worldwide, which of course brings recognition to the entire destination of Las Vegas area, Clark County, and all the activities that can happen here. So all of our metrics for hotel occupancy in all of Clark County are increased from fiscal year or calendar year 2022. Of course, Formula One is happening. There's an application for your mobile device now. It's F1 Las Vegas. It's an app you can get on there, and if you're interested in any way about what the track is going to look like, what the routes are going to be, what the road closures are going to be, how to navigate getting around, and anything that has to do with either being a part of watching it or avoiding it entirely besides just staying out of there, you can go on to this app, F1 Las Vegas, and learn all there is to learn. And if you're interested in tickets, they're available on there too. And of course, NFR is being ramped up for December, the 7th through the 16th. That brings in generally about $121 million to the area, which we're happy to be a part of. And along with that, you have the Cowboy Christmas and all the exhibits down at the convention center and all the great stuff that's happening in that area. So besides that, continue to conserve water and treat it like we actually are in a continued drought. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Thank you. Debt management was vacated, and I was unable to attend the BCMHA because of a death in the family. So But I also heard that Art in the Park, which I also missed, was amazing. So I love that we're able to bring things to the community and show them why we live here.
Thank you.
I have nothing to report.
I wanted to send a special shout out to a couple police officers that wasn't mentioned, and that's our police dogs. And I just love them, of course, and our police horses. And so the mounted police do a great job, and I know everybody loves them when they're out there and about. So I just wanted to do a special thank you to our canines and our horses that are out there. And also, I thought the Art in the Park was a great event. And the whole town was buzzing all week long. I just loved it. So it was a lot of energy and a lot of fun. So look forward to more instances like that. Also got to go down to Hemingway Park and break out to do a grand opening for the Ram Cam. I think that's just a great thing for people to be able to go down and watch the Ram. We get that luxury every day of sitting here and watching them, but now my family's back in Calistoga can watch the Ram just like I do. So I think that's exciting, and I hope everybody does check that out. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Recognizing what a wonderful season this is for Boulder City, not just for the weather, but all the events that happen, the National Night Out, where the police fire had an opportunity to face off in a softball game, and the kids were allowed to enjoy all of the blow-up things that they could do, climbing, jumping, bouncing, and the city really is blessed in everything that we have and have access to. So we are very appreciative of what we have here in Boulder City. If there's nothing else to report, then we will adjourn the meeting, and the city council is thus adjourned. Thank you.